Hello everyone and welcome back to another Astroneer video, this time in quick succession of our previous one. And that is because we still have some unfinished business left to discuss. And that is primarily the limited time event, or the automated mass production protocol event. Now there are 68 days left to complete this event, so you do have a little bit of time, so do not worry. This event took me roughly 4 hours to complete, and I did have some infrastructure ahead of time, such as a large rover and a large shuttle, and a few of these machines. However, everything that you see behind, I did create for the first time when I started this update. So it did take me a little bit of time just to get some of it underway, but I will talk about some tips and tricks in order to get there in due time. Now this event, I already do have it completed, as I said, will require 160 compound, 240 aluminum, and then 240 aluminum alloy. In other words, you're going to need 480 total aluminum and then 240 copper. Now the pretty obvious strategy to get this is to harvest it. However, doing that by hand is going to take quite a while, which is why this event might seem daunting for a new player or someone who might be casual to the game. The strategy that I primarily tend to use when it comes to these events is to take a rover, put a ton of storage on it, and that's why I have those canisters, a tier 3 drill, and an RTG, as well as a paver, because you need to make some level ground sometimes, and basically just drive around the planet, plowing through all the resource nodes and picking up tons of resources that way. For example, I drove around the surface of Glacio to get all of my compound. I drove through maybe 8 to 10 resource nodes, and all of a sudden I was at more than 160. It is a very efficient method of getting all the resources very quickly, and I would highly recommend doing so. Afterwards, I then drove through the center of the planet to get the aluminum. I got enough aluminum both for the first aluminum stage as well as the aluminum alloy stage, and then while all of that was smelting with the beginnings of this setup that I'll explain in just a moment, I then traveled to Calidor and drove through copper or malachite deposits under the surface. And that also only had to drive through like 4 or 5 to get to 240. Their copper deposits are extremely bountiful on Calidor, and would highly recommend going there to get your resources. Now the other strategy, as we take a look over here, is to use the auto extractors in order to achieve this. Now the auto extractors are pretty good. However, the issue with this update is the auto extractors are now going to cost an exochip in order to make. And exochips are going to be a little bit valuable. People are still kind of adjusting on how to get them and where exactly you can find them most effectively. So I would say maybe hold off on the auto extractors just because making them is going to be complex, and you're only going to get 32 resources per, assuming you leave a medium resource canister, in a relatively decent bit of time. So because of that, I would highly recommend, as I said, using the rover method, because driving through the center of the planet is kind of fun. It's very satisfying to see a whole mess of resources all of a sudden shoot in your direction, and it's kind of just an entertaining way to do it in the first place. As we take a look at the setup that we use to actually complete this, you'll notice that I use these medium resource canisters for pretty much everything. And the reason being because they hold quite a lot of resources, 32, and that's going to significantly reduce the amount of sends that you need to make in order to actually complete this event. And the reason that you want to do that is because it actually costs 500 bytes in order to send off each rocket. So you want to really maximize the amount of resources you're packing on before you actually decide to send it off. And these canisters, since you can fit 4 of them all around in each of the different locations, are actually going to be your most effective way of sending off resources possible. This allows you to complete the entire event in a maximum of 6 runs. So you only need to spend 3,000 bytes in order to complete this entire event, which is pretty cheap considering the scale of how many resources you need to have. With these canisters, however, it was also very beneficial to set up a set of auto arms to pick and pull various items off and then send it through my production line. So naturally, for compound, there really wasn't anything you need to do. You just send off the canisters, and in my case, I had all the canisters come back. I never had to make another canister because I lost them to sending them off. Sometimes that can be an issue as you get other rewards that replace them or something like that. Seems like that is not the case with this update. These canisters, however, I chose to put one of them on the end of the smelting furnace, so that way when I was feeding my raw laterite into the smelting furnace to make aluminum, as soon as the smelting furnace was done, it would go right into the canister, and afterwards, after it was full, I could then pop it right onto the shuttle and get ready to send it off. Copper, however, was a little bit different. in order to prepare for the copper production into aluminum alloy, I did make sure that I had all of the aluminum that I needed. That way, when I went to Calidor to get the copper, I could continue smelting all my aluminum, come back, and have all of my aluminum done before I began smelting my malachite. So, with the completion of my aluminum, I brought my aluminum over onto this side of the chemistry labs for reasons why you'll see in a moment. And I only smelted malachite into copper, and then I moved the copper to the chemistry labs that are set on repeat for aluminum alloy. Now, because I already have my aluminum smelted, I used one set of auto arms to ferry aluminum back to the chemistry labs in order to make the aluminum alloy, and another set of auto arms to take off of the chemistry labs and then place onto an empty canister. That way I could translate it from copper and aluminum into aluminum alloy and store them on canisters that I could get ready to send off as well. Now, once again, this is not going to be the most efficient, the best way to do this. This is just how I did it, and hopefully this can inspire you to either make some improvements or follow the method that I use just to generally get this done relatively quick. It is entirely up to you, and no way to do this event is the wrong way. I cannot stress that enough. These events are meant to be fun, they're enjoyable, I really do like them, and if somebody does it a different way, that's perfectly fine. They did the way that worked for them. Might not have been the fastest, might not have been the absolute best, but as long as you have fun doing these events, that's what really matters. And speaking of fun, the best part about these events is that we get some new cosmetics. Now, one thing that I do want to touch upon is this event already came out, as I had said, in the Automation 1 update. So what I really like that Astroneer is doing with this game is when repeat events come up, you have the ability to earn previous items. For example, the VR Vision is something that we unlocked the first time around. Then we also got the Gearhead the first time around. And finally, we had the Metal Gear as our third tier visor for completing the event the first time during Automation 1. Completing the first stage, the compound stage, rewards you with all 3 of these cosmetics. So by completing the first stage, you do get everything that you would have gotten if you had done it previously, which is really good for new players who might not have been able to play it before, people who just bought the game, all that type of stuff. I really do like that feature because, again, it's very inclusive and helps people get the cosmetics that they might have missed otherwise. That being said, this event also has 2 new cosmetics for the other 2 stages. Completing the aluminum alloy stage nets you the copper plate, which honestly is a pretty cool palette. A lot of the palettes are generally basic standard colors. This one has a little bit of a shine to it. You have a little bit of the oxidized copper look to it. It kind of has like a little bit of a minty color in the green. I honestly kind of like this palette. It's pretty niche. You need to pair it with the right visor, of course, but you know, it's a pretty cool palette, I have to say. The other item that you get for completing the aluminum alloy stage is absolutely brilliant. It is so clever. I really like that it is a monocle in the shape of a gear. This is known as the cog piece, and once again, I really like how this looks. I think that is a really funny addition to the game, and also kind of looks pretty classy. I was mentioning on stream about how it'd be cool to have a top hat to go with this. Unfortunately, I did not get it during the holiday event that was going on in 2019, I believe it was, because I had other things going on at the time. So I'm hoping that I can pick that up at some other time because that would go very well with the cog piece. But that's it for the cosmetics. There are other cosmetics that I did mention at the end of the Update 19 video, or Update 20 video, excuse me, that are going to be some new visors for Pride Month. So you have asexual, bisexual, transgender, pansexual, non-binary, lesbian, and LGBTQIA+ for every other circumstance. And honestly, I really do like how they are including these. Like, these are free for everyone to get, which is a really nice way for Astroneer to say we support people and we support our entire community. And I think that's a very nice touch. But with that, that's going to be the end of everything that we have for Update 20. We've gone through all of the new items, some of the recipe changes, as well as everything that you're going to need for the limited time event. So as always, by all means, if you have any questions, please hit me up on the Discord, comments. I do try to check them as regularly as possible. I try to be active in them. So please reach out if you do need any help or see if anybody else is struggling with the same thing and you might find a solution that surprises you. But that being said, thank you all for watching. I do certainly appreciate it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you do enjoy these type of videos. I love making these, and I'm doing my best to try to get as many out as possible. But have a good rest of your day, evening, and or night, and we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy, everyone.